let's prepare our implementation class for permission checking. And so this is also to ensure that everything that we did a little bit earlier is also good to go. And so what we're going to do first is we're going to head over to our snippets. So in the solutions folder, right now we're in solutions chapter 6, solution 6, gradebook, followed by snippets. From there, we're now in folder number 3. We're going to expand out the implement permissioning support, and we're going to head down to the gradebook service, opening up source main, followed by Java. So source main Java, and then we're going to follow it down, Liferay training, gradebook service, and we're going to head here to impl. So let's head over here to impl, and we're going to have 4 classes here. All right, so what we're going to do is copy all 4 of these classes. So holding Control to multi-select, I'll right click and then copy. And let's head back to our project that we're working on. We're going to go into the gradebook service. We're going to go into source main Java and then gradebook service impl. From there, let's go ahead and select each one of the files that we have. Let's go ahead and delete them. We're going to get an "Are you sure?" I'm going to go ahead and click OK. From there, let's go ahead and paste the 4 files that we copied a little bit ago. So pasting those 4 files into the package. All right, and we're all good to go. All right, let's go ahead and take a peek inside of them really quick. So assignment local service impl. Right, and we'll see a couple of changes throughout. And so one of the biggest changes that we're going to see as we scroll through, and let's see if we can find it, right, are these various booleans for our permission checking. So after we've pasted our 4 files into the service impl, you're going to see a couple errors. That's actually going to be okay, since we're overriding a couple different methods here. Once we rerun Service Builder, everything will be fine. And so let's go ahead and discuss a little bit of what's going on. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to bring up the Outline tab just to make viewing the file a little easier. So to do that, we're going to head over to Window, Show View, and then Outline. The outline shows up down here on the bottom right. Me personally, I like to put it up here at the top right. That's just where I'm comfortable with it, but it can be wherever you want. Again, it's your environment. Feel free to do as you wish. So the first thing I'm going to take a look at is over here in the add assignment method. And what I'm looking for specifically in the add assignment method is the ability to add what I like to call permission resources. We see that's going to be the comment here, and we have placeholders for that, in which we're going to be implementing that a little bit later. But the whole idea here is what we want to do is we want to make it so that whenever we create an assignment, we're also going to be creating a permission resource as well. So that's the placeholder there. We'll come back to that a little bit later. In the delete assignment, the one that we have an error here, what we're also going to be doing is we're also going to delete the permission resource as well. So we're going to be implementing that a little bit later. And so those are a couple of different things that I want to highlight. The rest of what we have here is going to be setting the stage for some later exercises. So now that we have our snippet here, what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and build services once again. So let's head over to Gradle Tasks, under Gradebook Service, Build, and then let's double click Build Service. We'll go ahead and play the waiting game just for a brief moment here, waiting for Service Builder to rewrite our APIs, as well as any other files that need to be overwritten. So looks like we're all good there. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to do my Gradle refresh. So clicking on the training workspace, I'll use the keyboard shortcut Control F5 so that my project updates. You'll see the progress as usual down here at the bottom right. Okay. So as we're waiting for that, we can go ahead and discuss a few things here. And so one of the things that we want to discuss is the steps to integrate our application into Liferay's permissioning framework. And so the first thing that we're going to want to do here is we're going to want to let Liferay know that we are going to be defining our permissions. So in order to do that, we're going to be creating a file called portlet.properties. And so we're going to be creating this for our model resource first, since we don't have a portlet resource right now. So we'll come back to this error in a little bit. Let's first take care of our portlet resource. Excuse me. Let's first take care of our model resource. And so here in the gradebook service, we're going to navigate over to our source main resources, and we're actually going to right click it. So go ahead and right click the source main resources folder. We're going to head over to new, followed by other. From here in the wizard, we're going to be creating a new file. So in the wizard, just type file, and under the general, go ahead and select file. We need to give this file a name. Liferay is going to be looking for this file specifically, so we need to make sure we call it what it is. It's going to be called portlet.properties. So portlet.properties is the name of the file here. Once we have that all squared away, let's go ahead and click finish. So we've created our portlet.properties file here. And what we need to do is we're going to be defining where our default.xml is going to be. So default.xml, that XML file that's used to define our permissions. So to do that, we're going to declare our property resource at singular. So resource actions.config. Right, this is going to be equal to, and then we're going to be creating the directory pretty soon. So this is over in the meta-inf or meta-inf folder, followed by resource-actions. And then, let's spell that right, resource-actions. That's a tongue twister. Resource-actions, and then default.xml. Again, technically, I suppose you can call it whatever you want, but Liferay convention has us call it default.xml. Once we have that all squared away, let's go ahead and create the resource actions folder within the meta-inf folder, and then we're going to create the default.xml file alongside of it. So just to make sure that there really isn't a resource actions folder, I opened up the meta-inf folder right here, and it looks like we're good to go. So let's go ahead, we'll right click the meta-inf folder, we'll head over to new, and then we're going to create a new folder. So let's go ahead and follow what we just did. So we're going to be calling this folder resource-actions, so plural, more than one action. So resource-actions, from here we'll go ahead and click finish. And let's go ahead and right click the resource-actions, head over to new, followed by file. Right, and then still following the same thing we've done, let's go ahead and call this file default.xml. Once you have that all typed out, go ahead and click finish. So now that we've created our default.xml, we're going to be heading over to our snippets folder, and we're going to be grabbing a snippet here for the default.xml. So we're going to scroll down a little bit. We have the snippet section as we've been working through it. And then we're looking for the resources folder, meta-inf, resource actions, and then we're going to open up the default.xml. So go ahead and copy the contents of the default.xml coming from the snippet. So I'll go ahead and copy everything there. I'll close the file just so that I don't get these confused. And then I'm going to paste the contents of that snippet in the default.xml that I've just created. I'll go ahead and save along the way. And then just to do a little bit more cleanup work, I'll go ahead and remove or exit out of those files since we're not going to be using them anytime soon. I'll double click the default.xml to make it full screen, and let's take a look at what this default.xml is doing. So first things first, we're defining our model resources. So first off here on line number 5, this is our model resource. You'll notice that we're not specifying a specific model resource. So it's not an assignment or a submission. So this is our indicator letting us know that the actions that we're about to define later on are going to be top level actions. So next up is our model resources are typically referenced within a specific portlet. And so we're declaring here where the model resource is going to be referenced here within the gradebook portlet. Next up are going to be the actions that we are defining. So the actions that we define here are add, assignment, and permissions. So the action keys that are defined here on line 11, on line 12, and pretty much any other action key, we can call them pretty much anything that we want. So instead of add assignment, we could have said create assignment or, materialize assignment. We can use whatever sort of string we want, so long as we check for that string when we do permission checking. And we'll take a look at that pretty soon. All right, next up, you can also define defaults for the site member and the guest role. This just means that these specific roles will automatically have the actions that you give to them. Next up here on line 16, we are saying the guest role cannot have these permissions. This is a way in which we can programmatically ensure that our guest will never, ever have the ability to add assignments or access to permissions. So we're saying you will never have the ability to perform these actions. It will remove the ability over in the UI side to add the permissions. And there's no way around it in the UI. We have to change it programmatically. So from line 29 all the way down to line 37, we are defining all of the different actions that we can perform on the assignment entity or the assignment model. Again, we can use whatever action keys we want, and Liferay does account for some of them. But instead of, for example, instead of saying delete, what we can do instead is say recycle or garbage can, right? What we call the action key is not dependent on what the actual action is. So if you want to be creative, you can, but of course we want to try to keep things simple so that when people read our code, it makes sense. So defining the different actions that we can perform on our model resource. Here on line 39, we're saying the site member by default is able to view and add a submission for our assignment. The guest by default is able to view, and then the guest will never be able to perform any one of these actions from line 47 to line 54. All right, and that takes care of it here. If we wanted to be more thorough, what we can do is we can do the same thing for the submission resource or the submissions as well. But for the time being, we can go ahead and leave those alone. Or if you're feeling adventurous, feel free to try to implement it on your own. All right, so very good. So far we have defined the permissions for our model resource, and we've also defined our top level actions as well. So make sure to save the file, and I'll go ahead and double click the default.xml, bring it back to its normal size, and then we're going to go ahead and exit out of the default.xml. For the time being, we're not going to be messing with it again. All right, so next thing we're going to be doing is we're going to be creating our permission checker class. So what we're going to do is we're going to create kind of a permission checker helper class which will be utilizing Liferay's permission checker. So we're going to be creating that over in the Gradebook API. So let's scroll up towards the top and we'll open up the Gradebook API just to kind of take a peek at things. Right. But what we're going to do here at the Gradebook API is we're going to right click the source main Java, head over to new, followed by package. So again, right click the source main Java, new, and then package. From here, we're going to go ahead and create a new package. So the name will be com Liferay training gradebook service permission. So com.liferay.training.gradebook.service.permission. Once you have that all taken care of, go ahead and click finish. Now that we have the package created, what we'll do next is we'll scroll down a little bit, back down to our snippets, and we're going to navigate to the same place within our snippets. So we're going to be over here in the permissions folder. We'll expand out the permissions, expand out impl, right? And then we're going to go ahead and copy. Oh, sorry about that. So we're not going to be here. We're going to be in the Gradebook API. So that's my fault. So we're going to head over here to the Gradebook API, source main Java, com Liferay training gradebook service permission, and then we're going to copy this assignment permission checker. So go ahead and copy the assignment permission checker. I used Control C, and then we're going to paste within the package that we created back up here at the Gradebook API. So you can either use Control V to paste it. All right, and let's try that again. Select the package, and then we can use Control V to paste it inside the package like so. All right, let's take a look at the permission checker class. So expanding out the package, and then we'll take a look at the interface here. Within each one of these methods within the interface, the one thing I want to hone in on is this action ID. So what we can do when we are calling our permission checker is we are passing in the action ID that we want to permission check for. So this is why over in default.xml, we can call our action keys whatever we want. So long as whatever action key we want to check for, we pass it as the action ID that I have highlighted here on line 28. And then the same thing will happen for each one of our other permission checking methods. Liferay does take into account a couple of common names like view, edit, update, and we can reference Liferay's action keys class for that specific string. Anything custom, we can add it as a string itself in quotes. All right, next up, what we want to do is we want to export the package that contains our permission checker. So that way this can be made available over in our Gradebook service, as well as our Gradebook web that we're going to be creating in a little bit. And so let's head down to the bnd.bnd. So make sure you're selecting the bnd.bnd for the Gradebook API. Over at the export packages section, we're going to click on the green plus button, and we're going to be exporting the package that ends in .permission. And once you have that selected, go ahead and click OK. And once you do that, go ahead and save the file. And then I'm going to take a peek at the source just to ensure that it is indeed being added. This is more so my own paranoia than any issues with BND tools. So looks here. Let's try that again. So looks good here. We can go ahead and exit out of the bnd.bnd of the Gradebook API, and we can also exit out of the assignment permission checker as well. So the next thing that we need to do is we need to implement the assignment permission checker interface. And so that's going to be over at the Gradebook service. So I'm going to collapse some of these, some of the packages there just to give us some more visual space. And we're over here in the gradebook service. Let's open up the source main Java and let's create a new package. So this is going to be a new package for our implementation class. So let's right click source main Java, head over to new, followed by package. And we're going to follow similar convention here. This will be com.liferay.training. Let's spell that correct. .gradebook.service .permission.impl. Once you have that all typed out, go ahead and click finish. And then we're going to head back over to our snippets. We're going to copy the Java class for our implementation class. Right, and this is over in the gradebook service. So I'll collapse the gradebook API. So we're here in the gradebook service. Right, we went all the way down and we're here in permission impl, and go ahead and copy the assignment permission checker impl. Right, and anytime if I'm going too fast, feel free to pause the video. So we'll go ahead and copy the assignment permission. Right, so right click copy, and then we're going to paste it in the package that we've just created. So right click and then paste. Took a little bit of time, but it eventually showed up. All right, let's take a peek at the assignment permission checker. Right, and a lot of what we see here is working with Liferay's permission checker. So it's not always going to be so straightforward, but let's highlight a couple of key aspects here. So what we're doing here in our assignment permission checker is what we've done kind of before, right? We have the interface assignment permission checker, and we're implementing here with our implementation class, right? We're making this an OSGI component, and within the property element, we're saying the specific entity in which I'm permission checking is going to be the assignment. From there, we're going to be using Liferay's permission checker to help us out, and we're going to be calling Liferay's permission checker to do the permission checking for us. So a lot of this is not going to be something that we would have to implement. We would just need to reference Liferay's permission checker to help us out. So now that we have that taken care of, go ahead and double click the class if you made it big so that we can shrink this down. And we're going to run Service Builder one more time. So heading over here to the right hand side, I'll go ahead and double click Build Service to run Service Builder. So letting Service Builder do its thing, update our APIs. And now that it is successful, the next thing I'm going to be doing is I'm going to do my Gradle refresh once again. So over here in Training Workspace, right, I'll use the keyboard shortcut Control F5. Right, and looking down here at the bottom right, we'll see that my Gradle refresh is occurring. So it's still going. It does take a little bit of time. So we'll give it the time that it needs to finish up. But as we wait, let's go ahead and talk about the next thing that we're going to be doing. We're going to go ahead and we're going to head back over to our assignment local service impl. So we have defined our permissions within our default.xml. We have implemented permission checking using our snippets. Now what we need to do is we need to create our permission resource. And the permission resource is the resource object that's used to help Liferay do permission checking. It's kind of like the record keeper of permissions, saying these are the things that different roles are able to do to our specific assignment or entity. So let's head over to the gradebook service, and we're heading over to the package that ends in service impl. Let's go ahead and clean house a little bit. We'll get rid of that. Right, so we're heading over to the service impl. We're going to open up that package, And let's head over to our assignment local service impl. Now that we're here in the assignment local service impl, we're looking for the add assignment method, right? And once we're here in the add assignment method, we're looking for a placeholder for our permission resource. And so here it is right here. On my file, it's going to be on line 133. All right, so here on line 33, if you want to add it below, feel free to do so, just so that you can keep track of your progress. If you want to wipe out that comment, that's pretty good as well. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm just going to bump this down a couple. I'd like to see where we're going or what we have done. So here on line 135, bumped it down a couple lines. We're going to make a call to our resource local service. This is the API that's going to help us add our permission resource. Now, technically speaking, behind the scenes, this is going to be just a resource. And so we're going to be adding a resource. And this is kind of the hard part, right? When we're dealing with APIs, there are quite a number of overloaded methods. So this would be, one of the difficult parts of deciding which method do we pick and what parameters do we pass. And so in this case, I'm going to start off with the one, and let's confirm 1, 2, 3, 4. We have 4 parameters there. And then within our add assignment, we have 1, 2, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we might need 5 things here, right? But to give our insider knowledge here, we're actually going to be selecting a different one. Again, one of the hard parts here. So we're going to be selecting the one with 8 parameters, right? So this is going to be the add resources, the one with 8 parameters. Right, one of the fun jokes is, an array starts at 1, right? So why is it arg0? Anyways, we're developers, we know we always start counting at 0. All right, so we would have to do a little bit of digging within the API to figure out what these parameters are. The first one is going to be the group ID, so the ID number of our specific site. So since this is going to be pretty long, I'm going to bump this. We'll bump it down afterwards. So first parameter is going to be the group ID. We have the group object, so we can get the group ID based off of that group object. Sorry, company ID. So we're going to be getting the company ID. So excuse me there. The next object is going to be the group ID here. So the group ID is a parameter that is being passed in within our method signature and add assignment. So we're good to go there. The next argument is going to be the user ID. Right? We have that object as well. Right? We got it using our service call. Okay. The next object, or next parameter I should say, is going to be the entity itself, or what entity are we permission checking. So this is going to be our assignment, and then we're going to get the name of our specific assignment. Next parameter here is going to be our assignment ID. So we have the assignment object, and we can get the assignment ID from the assignment object itself. All right, next up here, a lot of parameters. Next one here is going to be what we call portlet actions. All right, almost done here. After that, it's going to be add group permissions. And then the actual, or the last Boolean, is the add guest permissions. All right, formatting is a little bit ugly here, so let's make this look a little bit neater. So we'll bump that down. Let's get this over here. All right, and let's see. And I'll bump this guy down here. We'll tab. Then one more. Let's get this guy here. So that's a little bit better formatting there. All right. So again, this is a little bit insider knowledge, right, of working with the resource local service, right? We would, in practice, take a look at the documentation and see what the Java docs would say about this, about the resource local service. So very good. We have the logic here so that every time we create an assignment, we're going to be creating that permission resource alongside of it. Now, the next thing we need to do is every time an assignment is deleted, we also want to delete that permission resource as well. We don't want these sort of floating permission resources all over the place. So what we're going to do is we're going to scroll down and we're looking for our delete assignment. Okay. And then here in the delete assignment, right, we have a placeholder for deleting our permission resource. So again, we talked earlier that all of our permission resources is being handled by the resource, the resource local service. All right, so resource local service, and then we're going to be deleting our resource. Now we only have a couple of different things that we can work with here. And so we want to be able to grab the assignment. That's going to be one parameter. And then the other parameter that we're going to be working with is going to be, all right, so we're going to be deleting the resource. We're going to be passing in the assignment object, and then using a little bit of insider knowledge, we're going to be referencing a resource constant. So resource constant, there we go, dot, and it's going to be scope individual. Right, so I know face value is a little bit of magic here. Okay, we'll bump this down, make sure it's lined up in that way there. So we have our permission resource being added every time we create the assignment, and the permission resource being deleted every time we delete the assignment. Finally, the last thing that we're going to be doing is we're going to be implementing permission checking over in our remote service or within our remote API. And so in order to take care of this, right, we're always going to be modifying our implementation class. So let's head over here to the assignment service impl. So we're going to be uncommenting all of the commented references to our assignment permission checker. So I'll start here from line 58, highlight it down to line 62, and the keyboard shortcut is Control-Shift-C, as in Charlie, but you can highlight it, and let's see if there's one here. Nope. So the way I've done it before is you can highlight the block comment, you can head over to source, and then you can say remove block comment, like so. Right. I'll go ahead and use Control-Shift-O here. All right, and then we're going to need that reference that's going to be towards the bottom. So let's keep on going here, and we'll do the same thing. So let's go ahead, we'll head up here to source, remove block comment, and then we'll keep on going. We'll scroll down. Right. Next block comment here, and we're doing permission checking in each one of our methods. Right, so anytime someone tries to get an assignment, or anytime someone tries to create or update an assignment, we're going to be doing permission checking. So just going down the line, removing our block comments. I tried a little bit ago, and Control-Shift-C does not remove the block comment. So Control-Shift / is the keyboard shortcut there. Right, almost done here. We'll uncomment right here. and then finally the service reference here so that we can actually use this permission checker. And then Control-Shift-O one last time to bring in all of our necessary imports. Last thing we need to do is we need to run Service Builder. So let's go ahead and run Service Builder one last time. I need to save. I'll go ahead and save. So running Service Builder one more time so that all of the changes that we have done here are going to get picked up. One thing I want to reference here is on this comment here, 67 and 68, right? Since our Service Builder classes are technically not OSGI components, but Spring Beans, right? We have to do it the Spring way, using the at service reference to grab references of services here within our implementation classes. Right? When we're over in the controller layer side, it still follows the same OSGI pattern. When we're in the implementation side, we have to do it the Spring way using the at service reference. All right, so we have successfully reran Service Builder. Last thing we're going to do is perform our Gradle refresh. So Control F5 on the project, taking a look down here at the bottom right, seeing our progress. And once it's all finished, right, we're all good to go. One thing I'm going to do just really quick is I'm going to take a peek here in my submission local service. All right, it's trying to get a specific package it cannot resolve. Okay. And that's okay, right? We won't concern ourselves too much with that right now. Okay, submission. All right, so I'll fix this in a different section since we're not dealing too much with the submission just yet. But for now, our permission section is all taken care of. Right? So feel free to take a break whenever you feel like it. Right? These sections are pretty heavy. Right? We'll always be here for you. So we have now finished our permissions, or implementing permissions, or I should say, integrating our Liferay application into our Liferay permissioning framework.